Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you need to develop into a better leader, this podcast is for you. If you want to achieve a greater level of success, this podcast is for you. His mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, said it best: everything rises and falls on leadership. We hope to inspire you today and provide you with an insight that has the potential to positively impact the trajectory of your life. Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast.
Imagine gaining the leadership skills that could redefine your career. Join Coach BZ on the Leadership and Success Podcast, where each episode delivers practical insights from world-class speakers, military leaders, and industry experts. We dive deep into what matters most: building resilient teams, leading through uncertainty, and navigating complexity with clarity and confidence. Every conversation is crafted for aspiring leaders like you who are ready to grow, lead, and make a lasting impact. Don't miss our powerful live sessions and recent highlights. Michelle Hayward on building diverse, high-performing technical teams. Ann Leslie on leading through global complexity and cybersecurity risk. Ron Carpenter AI exploring faith, resilience, and AI-powered leadership. Colonel Michelle G.I. Gardner-Ince on commanding influence from the battlefield to the boardroom. Chris Robinson on shifting from drift to drive in life and leadership. And Coach Enrique Acosta Gonzalez on mentorship, legacy, and heart-centered leadership. Ready to level up your leadership journey? Tune in on Spotify, Apple, Audible Podcasts, YouTube Live, and LinkedIn Live. Join the movement toward leadership excellence. Listen now and start transforming your success.
So I'm Peter W. Singer, professor of practice here at Arizona State. I'm also author of multiple books on changes in technology, national security, and I'm also a strategist at New America, a think tank in Washington, D.C. that's a partner of ASU. So I've always been interested in two areas. One is politics and history, and secondly, I've always been interested in the cross between technology and science fiction becoming real. The books that I've been writing explore these issues of change, changes in everything from new technologies like robotics, changes in new types of threats like cybersecurity, changes in warfare, to even changes in the types of online activities and threats. Issues that are emerging in great importance, but we don't have a really good handle on. That's what I've been naturally drawn to.
So if you think of the idea of cyber war, which we've all grown, a bit comfortable with talking about over the last decade plus, it's the idea of hacking networks. But cyber war has an evil twin, so to speak, and we call that LikeWar. And it's the idea of not hacking the network, but hacking the people on social networks by driving ideas viral through their likes, their shares, but also, of course, sometimes lies. And we see this play out in episodes that range from the rise of ISIS to the rise of Donald Trump to it can have positive effects. We think of all sorts of activist movements. It's used in marketing. It's used by celebrities. And so myself and a young researcher named Emerson Brooking, we started on that project, I want to say like 2013 period. And essentially, we started out trying to understand how social media was being used in war zones.
Instead of focusing on what we need to learn, we've instead fed on hype that fuels fears but doesn't solve problems. Understanding the difference between hackers doing something annoying and something with the capacity to cause serious harm will better direct our fears and resources. If you think of the idea of cyber war, it's the idea of hacking networks, but at the end of the day, it's really about human vulnerabilities, psyches, beliefs, trust. Dr. Singer emphasizes clarity over alarmism in cybersecurity, a stance still vital today. He reminds us that cyber and information warfare aren't just technical, they're profoundly human, affecting what people think and trust.
Thank you.
Conversation. Thank you.
All right. So the first section of this is when I ask you about the secret of your success. What do you think it is? Why are you so successful?
These are tough questions you ask. I think it's a couple of things. One, a passion for the topic that I work on. Secondly, being willing to look at topics and issues from alternative perspectives than just my own. I like to turn, I looking at it, but how might the market look at it? How might an adversary, how might a competitor look at it? I'm constantly, in our field, we call it red teaming. And that allows you to identify problems, gaps with whatever it's working on. So it might be a business proposal. What is already out there? What would the potential buyer say is wrong with this project? To if you're writing whether it's a book or an article, what might a mean reviewer say about it? We run these training workshops for both business leaders and military officers on using strategic narrative skills. And one of the elements of it is a period where they're developing we would call elevator pitches, short versions of a proposal or project that they want to sell. And they've got a limited amount of time to do it. We set them up with partners. And one of the advice that we give to the partner is the worst kind of feedback that you can give to someone is it's great. Nothing. So that aspect of looking at different from different perspectives, including red teaming, I think is valuable. Another aspect, and something I constantly battle with myself on is attention to detail. I'm very get down in the details of issues because that can be the difference between success and failure. If you don't get that one detail correct. That said, the tension for me is that macro versus micro management side of things, and trying not to get bogged down in it. So, I'm a little bit right now. And even wargaming, we had the no vaporware rule. The technology either had to already exist or already be at the prototype stage. The cyber attacks that are in it, we didn't just go clickety clack, they're in. It had to reflect a kind of cyber attack that had already happened. In some cases, something that we had done to someone else, and then we would have our blinders up. Of course, no one would do that back to us. Well, yes, they would.
Yes.
So that's the key, is you always have that research grounding in useful fiction. And that's what makes it useful and avoids being so ungrounded, so speculative. And then the other is there's a sense of mission. Again, the goal for it isn't always to predict. It might be the opposite. It might be to warn and prevent. So, for example, there are certain things that happen in Ghost Fleet that will not come true because of the book. Someone read it. Oh, I don't like that scene. What are we going to do to keep that from coming true? And so we've continued on in the work for useful fiction, including for parts of the U.S. military. Sometimes the intent, the strategic side of that useful fiction is to explain. Here's how a certain technology works. Here, other times, the intent might be to help push forward an idea. Here is a proposal. Here's a strategy. Here's a doctrine. Here's what we could achieve. Here's a future to aim for. I like it. I want it to come true. What am I going to do to have that come true? Or it could be, as we talked about before, to warn if we don't change.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into leadership and innovation as seen through the lens of useful fiction, much like the insights from Dr. Singer.
Absolutely, there's so much to unpack. How leadership becomes not just about having great ideas, but communicating them effectively.
Right. Dr. Singer's approach teaches us that passion and foresight are the twin engines of sustainable leadership. It's like you know exactly what's coming, and you not only embrace that, but also articulate it in a way that sticks with people.
And isn't that where the power of storytelling springs in? I mean, narratives aren't just fluff, they're the cognitive hooks that make ideas memorable and actionable.
Exactly. When he talks about useful fiction, he's essentially saying that if you blend rigorous research with a compelling narrative, you've got a tool that goes beyond facts. It inspires action.
Yeah. It's fascinating because he applies that duality to the realm of cybersecurity and cyberwar. His work reminds us that technical challenges are intertwined with human behavior, policy, and ethics.
Right, and that's a point that really resonates with leaders. Cybersecurity isn't just about code and firewalls. It's about understanding what people actually do and believe.
Yes, and it also forces us to look at problems in multiple domains. It's not sufficient to be a specialist anymore. Leaders need to bridge the gap between the technical, the political, and the societal.
Indeed. And speaking of bridging gaps, Doctor, Singer's insight on skating to where the puck is going really pushes you to anticipate future challenges. It's about being curious enough to explore emerging fields like AI, synthetic biology, and multi-domain operations, long before they become mainstream.
Absolutely, yeah. But some might argue that predicting the future is just like guessing or even over speculation. How do you see that playing out when you balance innovation with realism?
That's a fair concern. However, Singer's work is grounded in a principle he calls no vaporware. Every technology or scenario in his useful fiction either exists or is at least at a prototype stage. This approach prevents ideas from becoming mere fantasies.
So basically, he's saying that if you're going to be bold, you also need to be anchored to reality. That way, your strategies and narratives are both visionary and actionable.
Exactly, and that really ties into another core message. Innovation must be grounded in reality. Whether you're pitching a startup idea or drafting military doctrine, hype without substance can easily erode credibility.
Yep, no one wants vaporware. And when it comes to conflict, he paints a picture of future warfare as multi-domain, hyper-connected, and asymmetric. It's a shift from traditional battlegrounds to an environment where cyber, space, air, and land operations interact in unexpected ways.
Right. It's like moving from straightforward chess to three-dimensional chess, where a small tactical move in one domain might trigger a strategic change in another.
Exactly. What really struck me is that future conflicts could very well be won by doctrine rather than hardware. Smaller, nimble forces with superior strategy might outmaneuver larger, more cumbersome armies.
Yep, and that's where the idea of continuous learning and red teaming comes in. Leaders are encouraged to constantly test their strategies, basically asking, how could a competitor exploit this? It's about never being complacent.
Totally agree. I love that. It teaches us that failure isn't the end, it's crucial feedback. By red teaming, you're proactively seeking out weaknesses to improve your approach.
Exactly. Failure is presented as an opportunity for growth rather than a stigma. Dr. Singer also emphasizes that great leaders are lifelong learners, a point that resonates whether you're in the military or tech.
And that continuous learning doesn't just cover your primary field, it stretches into adjacent realms, science, art, even history. That multimodal growth helps you see the big picture, which is vital for adaptive leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like mixing in different spices to create a richer flavor profile in leadership. The more perspectives you integrate, the better you can navigate uncertainty.
Speaking of uncertainty, Dr. Singer's call for servant leadership too is insightful. He urges leaders to be humble, to connect with their teams, and to lead by adding value even before expecting it.
Yes, that's a form of leadership that goes beyond charismatically advocating ideas. It's about being present, understanding your team's needs, and even taking time away from the big picture for the human element.
Right on. I think it's worth challenging one aspect here. When we talk about the power of narrative, some critics might say that relying too heavily on stories could oversimplify complex issues. How do you reconcile that tension?
That's a great point. While narratives do simplify, they work as cognitive anchors. The trick is not to replace analysis with storytelling, but to use stories to frame and support robust, multidisciplinary research.
I see what you mean. Got it. That balance between data and narrative is what makes the approach useful rather than purely fanciful.
Exactly. And as leaders today, whether on the boardroom floor or on the digital battlefield, it's critical to harness that balance. It's like telling a story that cuts through the noise and rallies everyone to the cause.
And it's not just about technology or warfare. These principles apply to business strategy, innovation initiatives, and even everyday leadership challenges.
Right. The message is universal. Know your domain inside and out, be ahead of the curve, and communicate your vision so effectively that it inspires action.
Yep, absolutely. It's pretty empowering. Dr. Singer's work really challenges us to ask ourselves what future challenges excite us enough to study deeply. How can we shape our industries to not just survive, but lead in an ever changing environment?
Precisely. And his insights compel us to think, am I ready to step outside my comfort zone and learn from every discipline available? It's a call to curiosity and courage.
Exactly. In the grand scheme, that is the essence of adaptive leadership. Whether you're commanding a military unit, spearheading an innovative project, or even just striving to improve your personal skills, it all comes down to being multifaceted and resilient.
Couldn't have said it better. And let's not forget, real leadership also means learning from failure and being willing to red team your ideas. Those moments of constructive critique are invaluable.
Definitely. And maybe our biggest takeaway should be to tell our own leader's story, craft narratives that inspire, ground them in reality, and invoke change. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And perhaps as a final thought, aspiring leaders should ask themselves, what story are you telling your team about the future? How are you preparing to lead in domains you might not yet understand?
Right, that's the challenge. Well, that wraps up our conversation on leadership, innovation, and the fascinating realm of useful fiction. It's been an eye-opener diving into these ideas alongside you.
It sure has been. Remember, true leadership lies not just in brilliant ideas, but in the ability to share them in a way that others can remember and act upon.
Exactly. Thanks for joining me on this journey today. Let's keep challenging ourselves, remaining curious, and leading with passion and purpose.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Take these insights, reflect on your own challenges, and keep pushing forward as servant leaders in this rapidly changing world.
Choose three people. They could be alive, dead, or even fictional character. Who would you choose or why to have dinner with? Three people.
Oh my gosh. Um, I should have more ready answers to these. These are really, uh, so just off the top of my head,
Mhm.
I would, I'm fascinated by the person, the history, and the character of Churchill. I think it would be a wonderful dinner companion by all repute. He would probably be drinking
Yes.
us all under the table, but also just the insights that he would have on World War II, on
Yeah.
leadership, on resilience. I just think he would be a fascinating dinner companion. One sticking with me from the realm of fiction. I'm going to go with Captain Pike from Star Trek, the more recent one.
mostly because I think he's a phenomenal leader. We could have
Yes.
I've actually had this argument with people. You have very different leader models that come out of the different generations of Star Trek that reflect
Yes.
what that era thinks of as a great leader. So whether it's the fist first Captain Kirk, hyper masculine, now almost kind of cliche, to Captain Picard, who's this sort of thoughtful.
Yes.
Pike is he's empathic, but I'm adding him in because if you know that the recent series, he's a phenomenal cook. So I want to get his leadership lessons, but also he's a great cook. So I've got my third one. Who am I pulling? There's so many different cliche ones I could go with.
One more.
That's the elementary, junior high school version of it.
Yes.
What really the graduate school version of master is more about cross domain. So how can my action in one domain affect another, and to recognize that the math is different. So a small, for example, out of your career area, a small tactical cyber action can have a strategic effect in the space domain or the land or air domain. Oh, by the way, it might not just be a direct, it might be, I have an effect on the space domain such that then that has an effect on the land domain.
Yes.
And then finally, the math is different in terms of the timeline. It's not, it may be that small tactical action has that effect 10 hours later, 10 months later. That's the part that's really complicated and to master. It's, for the sci-fi fans watching, it's, we're moving into three-dimensional chess from Star Trek. And I don't think we've really come to grips with that. It's because it really leads to changes and, again, everything from doctrine to training, that young Army officer could be the one that wins the naval fight.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our channels and come back for more wisdom nuggets on how you may develop into a better leader and achieve greater levels of success. Leadership is the most critical skill. The world will always need leaders to lead others, deploy the next disruptive technology, or execute a business strategy. You may as well decide on counting yourself among the 21st century leaders. See you right here next time on the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.
If you could choose